Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Before I start the video, sorry for the break. I haven't posted any video in the last couple of weeks due to some logistic difficulties. Being in California, you not only get to deal with a lot of opportunities, but there is also a lot of COVID, forest fire, bad air quality, and earthquakes around. So I don't want to even get in there. So let's get into the topic straight away. Welcome again to today's video, and we're going to look at small business versus startup, how similar and different they are. One of my favorite topic to speak about. For a start, not all business are started with similar intentions. There are startups like Airbnb, Slack, WhatsApp, which hits IPO or get acquired for billions of dollars. And those are the type of companies that are there on the limelight. Those are the type of founders we hear and talk about a lot. Yes, these are companies that get started in garage and grow to be such a unicorn, but not every company that starts small becomes Google, Facebook, or Twitter. These companies were able to get where they are right now because of their grand vision, and they had raised multiple rounds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars for that matter. And they also need such kind of money because of their grand vision and insane amount of money that is required for their scaling and growth. The problem in the market that we see often is that many people think this is the route to follow to get their business to the next level, and that's where the reality strikes. As I initially said, not all business are created with equal intentions. There's a line between startup which are intending to become a unicorn and small business which could become a 10 million, 20 million or 100 million dollar company but not a $1 billion unicorn. And the difference is clearly written, and they have different rules for each of them. Though they both start pretty similar, regardless of it being a startup or being a small business, there's a principal difference in their vision, operation, culture when it comes to startup and small business. Let's look deep into them to understand what the difference between a startup and a small business is. You know, for a start, let's begin here, where let's say you're building a solution, or the principal difference that you have is that if you're building a solution which is replacing a current existing use case or helping a present use case by using your employee power, then you're probably falling into small business category of the ecosystem. This is because for you to scale your business, you'll have to scale your employee strength, which means at any given point in time, your employee volume is directly proportional to the revenue that the company is generating, which means there's a slower growth rate, thinner margin, and very high dependency. Keeping this in mind, you generally fall into a small size company parameter. On the other side, startups generally lean more towards technology solutions for an existing problem or replacing a manual process with a technology solution, which means once you build the solution, millions of people can access and use it without a proportional growth in the number of employees the company has, which gives them an insane advantage when it comes to scaling. If you're providing such a kind of solution, then you're leaning more and more towards startup side of the equation. But be sure about having a solid business model, because gone are the days where startups weren't able to fill or build solutions. Rather, these days, startups are able to build solution, but the biggest problem comes when they're not able to find their niche business model. The next question that people, tend to rally around is on fundraising. We all hear about those early stage startups which raised millions of dollars from VCs. This happens because, as I said earlier, they lean more and more towards technology solutions for an existing problem. So it requires a lot of upfront cost to deal with in terms of building the solution, and then probably they'll move towards scaling as the next biggest problem that they have on the roadmap. But when it comes to startups, investors put in that money into the startups during a very early stage of the business, betting on the vision, expecting that company would give them 10x, 20x return over the next 5 to 10 year window. But why is because, as I said earlier, the scaling becomes easier for them once they build the solution. It need not be even a 10x in terms of sales or profit for them, but even a 10x in terms of valuation is what the investors are looking for from those startups. But these types of investors are a bit fuzzy. They'll expect you to sell or liquidate the business quickly so they can realize their investment pretty quicker rather than waiting it out for a longer dividend period. IPO is another way where startups can pay back to their investors, but IPO is a pretty tough nut to crack, and it is reserved for the unicorns. But so coming back in terms of how the differentiations works, it is critical for you to understand what is my business model, which part of the ecosystem that I belong to, and then decide, okay, this is the type of investor that I should target. If you don't do that, you would much rather end up wasting your time by targeting a wrong type of investor. Let's say if you're a company which is trying to build an IT service firm, a digital or advertisement consulting firm, and if that is the case, you don't fall into a startup investor portfolio at all. Rather, it is better for you to look out for an executive who would bring investment into the firm and be a business partner. The ideal combination for a small business is to have a founder who brings investment and have another founder who brings expertise and even a set of clients to the firm. And ideally, I would suggest to look for friends and family round for their initial outside investment rather than looking out from an outside investor itself. Bringing in an external startup investor will create a disparity between the founders and investors when it comes to small business, as they won't be aligned with the scaling of the business. As I mentioned earlier, startup investors are a bit fuzzy and they will expect a rapid growth in the company or a larger growth pattern. Being a small business owner isn't an easy game either. You will end up being an entrepreneur and be associated with the firm forever and be successful too. From my personal experience, I know a lot of small business entrepreneurs who are much more successful than startup entrepreneurs, purely because startups are not easy to crack. Finally, regardless of you running a startup or a small business, you're an entrepreneur and have to live with a lot of tough choices and even tougher decisions to make in life. But simply putting, life is nothing but a collection of choices we have and the experiences that we gain by making those choices. And being an entrepreneur is one hell of a choice. Thanks everyone for watching this video and do subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Have a great day.